Hi, I'm Grey Tiger, and today we continue our series where we examine the unique mechanics of each of the races in Warhammer 2. Last week, we looked at the mechanics of the dwarves and the upcoming Hammer of Grogny mod that I am currently working on. Today, we will shift our focus to the men of the Empire and explore what mechanics they have to offer. First up, I'd just like to say, if you have been enjoying my content, please give a thought to subscribing to the channel if you have not already done so. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back to it. So, the Empire were one of the 4 core races in Warhammer 1, though they did receive what is termed as an Old World update since the release of Game 2, where they received 1 or 2 new mechanics. I'm yet to play a complete campaign with the Empire, as I get my gunpowder fixed from the dwarves, yet they seem to be in a fairly good place, perhaps in need of some mechanics for individual lords, and a new start position for Volkmar to add some variety. I'm certain we will see the Empire receive some more love and additional lords once Game 3 has been released, but then I believe every race will get some additional toys at some point down the line. Putting that aside, let's take a look at what mechanics the Empire currently has to offer. First up is the Imperial Authority mechanic, where the player can acquire prestige from expanding the Empire, winning battles, and constructing grand imperial buildings. This prestige can then be used to deal with incidents and solve dilemmas, which in turn grows your authority among the elector counts. This system is quite interesting and a fitting system for Karl Franz, but does not make so much sense to me for the Empire as a whole. I would probably not change the mechanic itself, but would just limit it to Karl Franz. The second mechanic, which is related to the first, is Summon the Elector Counts, that allows you to assign characters as elector counts of Empire provinces that you have control over. Different lords can unlock different bonuses, with some granting access to unique units. This system seems to be a copy of the Wood Elves Council mechanic, and I believe it was introduced alongside Imperial Authority as part of the Empire's Old World update. I like the fact that this is closely tied to the Imperial Authority, and that you can mix and match lords in different positions to access different rewards. Once again, I wouldn't really make any major changes to the system. Well, that's it for the Empire-wide mechanics currently in the game. So what could be added based on their lore? My first thought was something revolving around the schools of magic, but with 2 of the legendary lords not being casters, that doesn't really seem to fit. I also considered something related to the Cult of Sigmar, but that feels more like a Volkmar specific thing. I eventually settled on a mechanic related to the Imperial Gunnery school, as all the legendary lords have access to gunpowder units, and what is an Empire army without artillery? The mechanic would be quite a simple one, with the player tasked with gaining access to 2 crucial resources, iron and gunpowder. I thought about splitting the resources into the separate ingredients for gunpowder, but it adds no real benefit, and is just complexity for complexity's sake. The Imperial Gunnery School would be split into 3 categories: infantry, cavalry, and artillery, with each category having several nodes in sequence. Each node has 4 tiers of related bonuses that can be unlocked. In order to spend resources in a specific node, you would have to perform at least 1 upgrade on the nodes preceding it. The upgrades would require varying amounts of the 2 resources, depending on the category and node of the upgrade you are purchasing. As you perform upgrades, you also fill a progress bar that leads to the mother of all cannons, that is similar to the Vampire Coast's Big Bess, but is mobile due to it being drawn by horses. Each legendary lord would have a unique interaction with the Gunnery School, which we'll get to later. Now, onto the individual legendary lords and their current mechanics. Firstly, there is Karl Franz, the Prince of Altdorf. He currently has no unique mechanic. Instead, he has the Elector Count of Reichland effect, which gives improved research rate, increased recruitment rank for knights, and upkeep reduction for state troops. He also has the Heir of Sigmar effect that provides increased lord recruit rank, campaign movement, and diplomatic relations with other Empire factions, alongside a reduction to the upkeep of Reichsguard and greatswords. So, what system might we give to Emperor Franz? I'm thinking of something called Lord Protector, which is tied into the existing prestige system, and allows the player to gain upgrades to Karl's diplomatic abilities and his stats in battle. These upgrades will be displayed on a new progress bar aligned to the left side of the campaign screen, which has a total of 12 tiers. Every 4 tiers, the player would also unlock a new battle ability for use by Karl Franz and his armies. The first ability that is unlocked at level 4 would be Hold Steady, which would be an ability that allows you to increase defensive stats for a unit for a short period, concentrating on bracing against charges. This would have a single use, gaining additional use every 4 levels. Our second ability, that is unlocked at level 8, would be Leader of Men, which would provide all units within 100 meters of the army commander a sizable increase to their leadership and vigor for a short period. This would be single use per battle, gaining an additional use at level 12. The final ability to unlock at level 12 would be Bombardment. This calls forth an artillery bombardment on a targeted area, causing massive fire damage to friend and foe alike. This would also cause a loss of leadership for units that have been hit. This would be a single use per battle. As for the Imperial Gunnery School, Karl Franz would have access to an additional node for each of the categories that would concentrate on giving units additional leadership and defensive stats. Secondly, we have Volkmar the Grim, who has the Cult of Sigmar effect, which gives bonuses to magic item drop chance, increased weapon strength, and reduced upkeep for flagellants, and additional recruitment ranks for warrior priest heroes. In his lore, it is stated that Volkmar is convinced that the ultimate way to defeat the forces of chaos is buried somewhere in the ancient scrolls and holy scriptures of the Empire, and he spends days on end locked away, searching through tomes of forbidden knowledge for the answer. Based on this, the unique mechanic I would propose for Volkmar may sound a little strange, but bear with me. It would consist of 2 parts. The first is similar to the Tomb King's Books of Nagash mechanic, where there would be ancient tomes deposited around the map in various settlements. The player would need to locate these tomes, which may be shown on the map with a new icon above the settlements, and then sack or occupy the settlements to gain the tomes. Once the player has access to the tomes, they would be represented on Volkmar's Forbidden Knowledge panel, which is aligned along the left-hand side of the campaign screen. Each tome would have multiple tiers of effects that can be unlocked, but not through battle, or raiding, or any other traditional means, but through having Volkmar study the books. This would be achieved by taking the campaign movement points that Volkmar does not spend on a turn and assigning them to the progress of the activated tome. If Volkmar is involved in the battle, then no study is performed, as who has time to read a book when you're fighting the forces of chaos? This would give the player a tough choice initially. Do I stop expanding or collecting tomes to study the ones I have and unlock their upgrades? Once you have additional lords, Volkmar can then concentrate on studying the collected tomes as your other lords expand your empire. What do you think of this mechanic? A little too strange, or rather fitting given the lore? For the Imperial Gunnery School, Volkmar would have an additional node in the artillery category that unlocks a new unit which fires magic blasts of energy. Third up is Balthazar Gelt, who is the Supreme Patriarch. He once again has no unique mechanic, but instead has the Wheel of Magic effect that provides bonuses to armor for all units, increased recruitment ranks for wizards, and reduced upkeep for battle wizard heroes. Since Gelt is the head of the Colleges of Magic, we could give him a mechanic where he gains access to a spell from each of the laws of magic as he gains prestige. A spell would unlock from each of the 8 colleges from levels 1 through 8, with each spell being a single-use spell that costs no winds of magic. Alongside the abilities, the player would gain buffs to the stats of wizards and other magic users. Regarding the Imperial Gunnery School, Gelt would unlock an additional node in the artillery category that would apply magic damage to different artillery pieces. Lastly, we have Marcus Wolfhard, who was added as part of the Hunter and the Beast DLC. He has access to 2 unique mechanics, as well as the Hunts Marshal of the Empire effect, which grants +3 to recruitment rank for Huntsman's generals, along with a reduction in diplomatic relations with the Lizardmen. Marcus's first system is Emperor's Mandate, where the player receives acclaim from the Emperor by raiding and by expanding the occupied territory in Lustria. The acclaim in turn leads to better quality units sent to reinforce the expedition via the Imperial Supplies dialogue. As you expand, however, be careful not to make the locals too hostile, as they will gain bonuses against you, though you will get supplies from the Empire at a faster rate. It's a nice balancing act as you expand your Empire, but try not to turn the entirety of Lustria against you too soon. I don't really have any major changes I would make to the mechanic, which seems to be a recurring theme today, as it is both enjoyable and fits the Hunts Marshal's lore. The second mechanic is Wolfheart's Hunters, where you can attain the services of some of the finest hunters to have ever lived, and gain their unique bonuses for use in battle. The hunters are situated around Lustria and can be collected as you expand. There are 4 hunters to find, with each having a unique backstory and lore that you can explore as they gain levels. I think this is a pretty cool idea, and would love to see something similar added to other races, so we can explore the lore of interesting characters that would never get a faction of their own. As Wolfheart already has multiple unique mechanics, I will not propose any new ones. As for the Imperial Gunnery School, Wolfheart has access to unique nodes in the infantry and cavalry categories that give poison damage to certain units. Well, that wraps up our look at the Empire's mechanics. I'd like to hear your thoughts on ways to improve the Empire. What mechanics would you add? What do you think of the mechanics I have proposed? Next time, we will take a look at the mechanics of the Greenskins, who recently had an old world update in the Warden and the Paunch DLC that reworked several of their systems, so it should be an interesting video. Until then, I would like to thank you for watching, and would like to thank everyone who has subscribed and commented in the videos in the past 2 months. Lastly, I would like to take a moment to promote my latest mod to hit the workshop, The Plagues of the Liber Bubonicus, which adds a unique campaign mechanic to Clan Pestilence, is now available. I would like to thank the Great Book of Grudges for featuring the mod in one of his videos this past week. It is very much appreciated to have my work highlighted by other creators. I'm Grey Tiger, and I'll see you next time.